75-year-old Walter Ghost Patterson forgot even his own name due to Alzheimer's disease. But the men who kidnapped his grandson didn't know that Walter was the only American who escaped from Hanoi Hilton in 1973. And that night, 50 years later, all his survival instincts came flooding back. One last time. Welcome to the Vietnam Stories. Before we begin this powerful tale, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this need to be remembered, hit that subscribe button. Sunset Manor Care Facility was located in a quiet corner of Virginia. Elderly people came here to spend their final days. For Walter Patterson, this place was just a waiting room. Alzheimer's disease had been slowly consuming him for 3 years. Sometimes he couldn't even remember his own name. 75-year-old Walter sat in the same place every day, in his old armchair by the window, staring blankly at the oak trees outside. His hair had turned completely white. His hands trembled, his back was hunched. The nurses called him Mr. Patterson, but he couldn't remember who anyone was. Most of the time, he didn't even recognize his own daughter. Dr. Rebecca Stone, Walter's doctor, was writing her latest examination notes. Patient shows severe cognitive decline. Memory loss is progressive. Advanced stage Alzheimer's diagnosis confirmed. The doctor couldn't understand the military record she saw in his file. There was classified information only showing honorable discharge and Purple Heart medal. That morning, his daughter Linda and 8-year-old grandson Tommy had come to visit. Linda was 42 years old and taught at Richmond Elementary School. Her husband Mark was on military deployment in the Middle East, so she was raising Tommy alone. Every week she would visit her father and see his condition getting worse. Linda approached with a sad voice. "Dad, hello. Do you recognize me?" "I'm Linda, your daughter," she asked gently. Walter raised his head. His eyes were foggy and lost. "Who came? Why am I here? Where is this place?" he mumbled. Tommy ran to his grandfather with excitement. "Grandpa Walter, it's me, Tommy, your grandson. They brought a turtle to school yesterday," he shouted joyfully. A sparkle appeared in Walter's eyes. He felt a warmth from within but couldn't remember what it was. A vague smile formed on his face. Tommy excitedly placed his hand on his grandfather's hand. "Grandpa, will you come to the park with me today? Mom said yes. You used to always tell me soldier stories. You talked about airplanes," he said. Linda touched her son's shoulder with concern. "Tommy, Grandpa is very sick. He can't go outside. His legs hurt a lot," she explained patiently. Walter asked in a confused manner, "Park? Soldier? Airplane? These words are familiar, but what do they mean? Who am I?" Tommy answered patiently, as if he had answered this question before. "Grandpa, you used to be a pilot, you always told me. You said you flew in the sky." Walter shook his head in confusion. These words sounded familiar but made no sense. Pilot? What did that mean? Linda turned to the nurse Margaret in the corner. "Is he a little better today? Any improvements?" she asked hopefully. Nurse Margaret had been working in this field for 20 years. She shook her head with a sad expression. "I'm sorry, Linda. He gets a little worse every day. This morning at breakfast he forgot his own name. He didn't recognize himself in the mirror," she replied. Linda tried to hold back her tears. "He used to be very strong. He was a Vietnam veteran, but he never talked about those days. My mother only told me that he experienced very difficult things," she said. Margaret asked curiously, "What did he do in Vietnam? Which unit did he serve with?" Linda shrugged. "I don't know. He never told us. After my mother died, I sometimes heard him crying at night, but when I asked in the morning, he said he didn't remember." That afternoon, Linda took Tommy and went home. Walter was still sitting by the window, his hands trembling as he stared into space. Linda's house in Richmond was small but warm. While Tommy was doing his homework, Linda was waiting for Mark to call. His military deployment had been going on for 8 months. At 7 in the evening, Linda heard her phone ring while washing dishes. Linda dried her hands and answered the phone. "Hello? Mark, is that you?" An unfamiliar, cold, and calculating voice answered. Linda Patterson, are you Tommy Patterson's mother? Linda's heart raced. Something was wrong. Yes, I'm Linda. Who's calling? What happened to Tommy? Where is he? She asked fearfully. The voice spoke without any emotion. Tommy is safe with us for now. If you want him back, come to the old Johnson textile factory on Route 15 tomorrow night at 11 o'clock. Come alone. Linda screamed in panic. Where is Tommy? Don't hurt him. What do you want? I don't have money. The voice replied coldly. $2 million, you'll have it by 11 o'clock tomorrow night. Exact amount. If we see police, you'll never see Tommy again. He hung up. Linda dropped the phone and collapsed to the floor. Her hands were shaking. She couldn't breathe. $2 million? Where would she find that amount? Should she call the police? But the man's voice was serious and cold. She couldn't sleep that night. Every sound in the house startled her. She went into Tommy's room, hugged his teddy bear, and cried. When morning came, there was only one thing she could do: go to her father. When she arrived at Sunset Manor, Walter was in the same place, but this time Linda acted differently. She knelt down and held her father's hands. Linda cried and shouted, Dad, please listen to me. They kidnapped Tommy. They took your grandson. Walter slowly raised his head. There was uncertainty in his eyes. Tommy? Who is Tommy? I heard this name, but... he asked. Linda explained desperately. Your grandson, Dad. He was here yesterday. He hugged you, told you he loved you. 8 years old, blonde hair. Something trembled in Walter's eyes. The name sounded familiar. He felt warmth inside but couldn't form a clear picture. Linda put her hands on her father's face. Dad, you used to be strong. You were a soldier. You were a pilot. You have to help me. I have no one else, she pleaded. Walter asked in confusion. Soldier. Pilot. These words are familiar, but what do they mean? Margaret came over and tried to calm Linda down. Margaret put her hand on Linda's shoulder. Linda, please calm down. Your father's condition is very serious. He can't help you. You should call the police, she said. Linda objected. No, they'll kill my child. They said if we see police, you'll never see Tommy again. At that moment, Linda's phone received a notification. The kidnappers had sent a video. Linda opened the video with trembling hands. Tommy was sitting in a dark room. His hands were tied and he was crying. Tommy looked at the camera crying. Mom, help me, I'm scared. Where are you? He shouted. That voice hit Walter, like an echo from 50 years ago. Images appeared in his mind. Other children, other screams. Tommy shouted, Grandpa Walter, I know you can hear me. Please help me, Grandpa. You always told me you were strong. The words, please help me, Grandpa, triggered something in Walter's brain. Suddenly his head started aching. He held his head with his hands. Walter trembled and mumbled, Tommy, Tommy. Something was coming back, vague but powerful. Linda shouted with excitement, Yes, Dad, Tommy, your grandson, he loves you. Walter closed his eyes tightly. Flashes, images, sounds appeared in his brain. Bamboo cages, metal bars, muddy floors, torture chambers, electric shocks, screams. And then suddenly one image became clear. A young pilot, F-4 Phantom crash, capture, Hanoi Hilton. Walter's eyes opened. This time it was different. Sharp, focused, military gaze. Even his posture had changed. Walter asked with a clear voice, without any hesitation. Linda, my daughter, where is Tommy? Who took him? Linda asked in amazement. Dad, do you recognize me? Can you really see me? Walter stood up. His body was still 75 years old, but his posture had changed. He no longer stood like a sick old man, but like an experienced soldier. Walter asked rapidly with commanding authority. Who took Tommy? How many people? Where are they holding him? What are their demands? Linda answered, They want $2 million. We're meeting at the old Johnson factory tomorrow night. Dad, how did you suddenly... Walter held Linda's hands. His eyes were completely clear. Linda, listen to me carefully. I am Walter Ghost Patterson, United States Air Force captain. In 1967, I served as an F-4 Phantom pilot in Vietnam. I was shot down. I was held prisoner at Hanoi Hilton for 6 years. I escaped in 1973. Alone, he explained. Linda said in disbelief, "Dad, you never told such detailed things. You always said, 'I don't remember.'" Walter answered with determination. "Because it was classified, top secret, but now Tommy's life is in danger. I'm going to bring him back." Margaret objected. "Mr. Patterson, you are very sick. You have severe Alzheimer's disease." Walter looked at Margaret. "Nurse, Alzheimer's erases some things. Recent memories, names, faces, but survival instincts, training, muscle memory. They remain deep in the brain, and Tommy's voice awakened them," he said. Linda asked with concern, "Dad, you're 75 years old. How will you fight these men?" Walter replied, "Linda, I endured 6 years of every kind of torture, electric shock, waterboarding, sleep deprivation. These kidnappers are amateurs. I'm a professional." Walter turned to the nurse. "Margaret, my file has emergency contact information. Call the Pentagon, tell them the code, Ghost Protocol Alpha 7, he said. Margaret picked up the phone and called the Pentagon. When she gave the code to the operator, she was immediately transferred to a high-level department. The voice at the Pentagon replied, "Ghost Protocol confirmed, identity verification required." Walter took the phone. "Ghost 7 here. Real name Walter Patterson. Service number 247-68-9952. Need immediate support," he reported. Pentagon replied, "Verified, Ghost 7, situation report." Walter reported, "Alzheimer's patient, but grandson kidnapped. Need extraction team, Richmond, Virginia." Pentagon confirmed. "Understood, rapid response team dispatched. Arrival time 15 minutes. Linda asked, "Dad, were you really that man?" Walter replied, "Daughter, I was just your father, but I was also a ghost, the only man who escaped from Hanoi. I lived with this secret for 50 years. 15 minutes later, black vehicles arrived in front of the care facility. Special forces emerged, fully equipped with tactical gear. The team leader approached Walter. "Sir, Captain Morrison, Delta Force, team ready. Your orders?" he asked. Walter gave instructions. "Morrison, target, my grandson Tommy Patterson, 8 years old. Johnson Textile Factory, standard hostage rescue operation." Morrison asked, "Sir, your medical condition, should you be in the field?" Walter said with determination, "Morrison, I have a genetic bond with that child. I'm coming. This is my final mission." Morrison replied, "Yes, sir. Gear up." Walter put on tactical vest. He was a soldier again after 50 years, but his body was 75 years old. His hands were shaking. Linda pleaded, "Dad, please be very careful. I don't want to lose you too." Walter kissed his daughter. "Linda, if I don't come back, Tommy will. That's a promise," he said. When they reached Johnson Factory, Walter briefed the team. Walter explained, "There are 3 entry points. The kidnappers are most likely in the center. Find Tommy, extract him. I'll create a distraction." Morrison objected. "Sir, Alzheimer's can create unpredictable situations," Walter replied. "Morrison, I was held by the Viet Cong for 6 years. These 4 amateurs are nothing." Walter entered the factory alone. His movements were as silent as 50 years ago. There were 4 kidnappers inside, armed but amateur. First kidnapper reported, "Boss, there are vehicles outside." Boss replied, "Impossible, the woman should come alone." Walter called from the shadows, "Not alone. I came too." The kidnappers looked around but couldn't see Walter. Boss shouted, "Who are you? Show yourself!" Walter said calmly, "I am Walter Patterson, United States Air Force, and you took my grandson." Boss threatened, "Old man, get out or the kid dies." Walter replied, "If the child dies, you all die. Professional guarantee." Boss pressed his gun to Tommy's head. "I'm serious, old man," he shouted. Walter moved suddenly. He used every survival technique he learned during 6 years of captivity. He silently neutralized the first kidnapper. Silent takedown. The second one noticed, but it was too late. Boss and the third man were in panic at the center with Tommy. Walter called out, "Two down, two to go." Boss shouted to the child, "Tommy, scream for your grandpa." Tommy shouted, "Grandpa Walter, I'm here, you came for me." Walter's heart ached, but he didn't lose focus. Alzheimer's confusion began to return. Walter shook his head and mumbled, "Focus. Tommy, protect Tommy." Boss laughed. The old man's confused. Alzheimer's effect started. But Walter's confusion was tactical. He had learned in Hanoi, appear weak, draw the enemy closer. When Boss approached confidently, Walter relied on muscle memory. 50-year-old training, disarm, neutralize. Boss fell to the ground. The third man fired in panic. The bullet hit Walter's chest, pain, bleeding, but the mission wasn't complete. Tommy shouted, "Grandpa!" Walter attacked the third man with his last strength. They both fell to the ground together. Final move. The third man went silent. Walter was lying on the ground, bleeding. He crawled toward Tommy with difficulty. Walter whispered, "Tommy, you're safe. Grandpa kept his promise." Tommy pleaded, crying, "Grandpa, don't leave me. Please stay." Walter said his final words, "Tommy, you're a strong boy. Grandpa is proud, always proud." Team Morrison entered. 4 kidnappers neutralized, Tommy safe, Walter critical. Morrison shouted, "Medical intervention, emergency." Walter held Morrison. "Morrison, mission complete?" he asked. Morrison confirmed, "Yes, sir. Tommy is safe. You did it." Walter said, closing his eyes, "Good soldier. Tell Linda." Her father remembered, when it mattered. At the hospital, Walter was in critical condition. Dr. Martinez explained, "Critical but stable, but the stress was too much." In intensive care, Walter was connected to a ventilator. Tommy whispered, "Grandpa, I love you. Thank you for saving me." Walter opened his eyes, recognized Tommy. Walter whispered, "Tommy, brave boy. Grandpa always protecting." Linda said, "Dad, you're a hero." Walter said, closing his eyes, "Not a hero, just a grandpa who remembered love." That night, Walter died peacefully. Colonel Williams came from the Pentagon. Williams announced, "Your father was a national hero. Files that were classified for 50 years will now be declassified, full military honors." Williams pulled out an envelope, posthumous Medal of Honor, and this. Walter Ghost Patterson, only successful escape from Hanoi Hilton. Final mission, saved his family. Greatest warrior, greatest grandfather. Letter read. Thousands of veterans attended the funeral. Honor Guard, missing man formation, eternal flame. The chaplain spoke. Walter Patterson proved that love transcends memory, that duty transcends death. Tommy placed a picture on the coffin. "My hero, Grandpa." Tommy whispered, "Thank you for remembering me." Years later, Tommy entered military academy with the Walter Patterson Scholarship. Your grandfather forgot many things, but he remembered everything that mattered: love, duty, family. Walter Patterson lived as an Alzheimer's patient, but died as a legend. So do you have a Walter in your life? Someone who forgot everything but remembered love? Share their stories in the comments. If this story moved you, subscribe and share. Because true heroes don't deserve to be forgotten, and every story deserves to live forever.